Now we got Kyle Madson, 95.7 The Game. I was listening to Kyle earlier today, man. He sounded good.
Oh, thanks, man.
Here, my main man Kyle Madson talking that talk, and I mean, we just gonna shift gears right now because I'm turned up right now. I'm turned up. I was talking to James about a sports body clock, and my sports body clock says it's time for some football. Okay, it's time for some football. The Niners play today, and I'm going to watch that game. And after 3 series and seeing Debo and Trent Williams and all these other guys in street clothes, I'm like, why am I watching this?
Right. Yeah. About 8 minutes into the first quarter, it's like, right. I'm going to do something else with the rest of my night.
But we will see Trey, right? Trey is going to be out there.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think preseason is more exciting because it's the anticipation of, like you said, it's a sports body clock. It's what's after the preseason. Like preseason signals the start of, like, fall is my favorite season, like of the seasons. When pumpkin spice stuff starts to drop, I'm like, yes. Not that I'm a huge pumpkin spice guy, but it's like, hey, fall's almost here because the preseason is the pumpkin spice of the NFL season.
So yeah, man, Niners Packers tonight at Levi Stadium, and there's a few things I want to ask you. First of all, how much do you think Trey is going to play today?
If I had to guess a snap count, I would say 12 to 15 plays.
That's like
one long series or two shorter ones. Yeah. And I think if they go like he plays 2 series and they go 3 and out and then get 1 first down where he's playing 7 or 8 snaps, yeah. I bet they take him out then.
I joked about it a little bit, but the thing that I'm focusing on when Trey is out there is big 71 out there. Is Trent Williams playing? If he's playing, cool, Trey plays. When he gets sent to the bench, Trey needs to get sent to the bench.
I bet there's, I don't want to say 0, but something just north of 0 chance Trent Williams plays.
Well, now that changes everything. I only want to see Trey out there for 1 series.
Yeah, he's going to hand the ball off. They might do a quick throw or a rollout or something. It's not going to be crazy.
Yeah.
Kyle, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, just the lack of depth or sort of guaranteed things on the interior line, and the defensive backfield was a question mark at one point. Does it feel like all of a sudden those are feeling like maybe they aren't issues with the 49ers?
The secondary for sure. Their secondary might be the best it's been in a long time, which is saying something. But the offensive line's definitely still a problem. There's I was expecting out of camp there to be one player like Aaron Banks, our 2nd-round pick last year. I thought maybe it would be wow, Aaron Banks, he's svelte now and he's figured it out and he's playing really well, and it's not really been that. And their starting right guard has been a 4th-round rookie who has played well from by all accounts, but what does he look like in a game situation? And they still don't have a starting center, so it's definitely still an issue with who's going to block for Trey Lance. But if they get decent guard, you don't need elite guard play. They just need those guys to be league average or maybe a little below, and then figure out what's going on at center. So it's still a problem, but if that's going to be your biggest problem, I think they'll be okay.
Hey, and Kyle, I'm gonna keep saying this, and I'm trying to temper my enthusiasm a little bit, but I gotta be honest, that's the only real issue I see with the Niners. The offense is crazy, the running back is crazy, the wide receivers, they're getting guys Jawan Jennings is kind of so, but who's the guy they signed out from Pittsburgh who's been turning heads in camp?
Ray McLeod.
Ray McLeod is doing his thing. Get to the other side of the ball. The linebackers look mean and nasty, and Fred Warner is looking like he's starting to move up the echelon of great 49er linebackers already. And I love Jimmy Ward. I talked about this the other day. Jimmy Ward, it's interesting the road he's taken as a 49er because it's been when he was drafted, he was a tweener, and it was what is Bulky doing? This guy, he can't really cover good enough to be a slot guy. He's not good enough to be a safety. And he's turned into a guy, like I said, that I love. He's a leader. I feel like he's seen everything that there is to see in this league, and he's physical. He gives them an edge. I love Jimmy Ward. So you look around this roster, And man, they stacked, Kyle. Can I say that? Can I say they're stacked?
Yeah, they're super loaded, and they were last year too. It's why I always push back on the idea that like, oh, the Rams are for sure more talented or they have a better roster. And it's like, no, they have a better quarterback. If you swap the quarterbacks last year, the 49ers win the Super Bowl. So that's what Nick Bosa's a year older. Their defensive ends are going to be ridiculous. They're going to have like 4 starting caliber defensive ends, I think. Their secondary should be a lot better, again, assuming health. And their biggest question mark is the offensive line, and then how good or not good is Trey Lance. But given that Kyle Shanahan figured out how to move the ball with Nick Mullins, I think they'll be okay on that front.
Yeah.
Hey Kyle, we've seen a lot of the relationship between Trey Lance and Brandon Ayuk so far in training camp. Is that something that you think can carry over? And do you think that that's gonna do they have a big 3 between Debo and Ayuk and Kittles?
Yeah, I think so. Especially with we'll see with Debo. He hasn't gotten a chance to work out with him a lot, and so that's kind of reared its head. And in camp the last few days, you keep hearing about there's a miscommunication. And Lance overthrew him on this ball, but it looked like there was a miscommunication. So that's something that they've got to get ironed out. But yeah, he's been working with Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk's personal receivers coach is TJ Hushmanzada. And Hushmanzada was on our show the other day and talking about all the like little things that Ayuk has changed with his mindset, and then just like things like decelerating. Like that's such an important thing for a receiver. How fast you are doesn't matter if you can't stop on a dime. And so they've been working on that kind of stuff. And Lance was down there working out with him. So they've gotten a ton of reps together, and I think it showed, and I think it's important because for a first time starting quarterback, like if he knows where he can put the ball to Ayuk and confidently have a player that like, okay, 3rd and 8, it's going to number 11. I'm going to put the ball on him and he's going to go make a play. I think that's super, super important for a young quarterback. And he's been it showed in camp. Ayuk has been arguably their best player. You were just talking about Jimmy Ward, Kenny. Jimmy Ward is not the one to just kind of spew praise. And he said Ayuk is having the best camp out of anybody not named Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal. And then James, you mentioned Kittle. I think that's going to be a really, really important thing to watch. Is Kittle's so good in the middle of the field? Can Lance just find him? Can Lance make those throws between the hash marks when Kittle's running wide open down the middle of the field? We saw Jimmy Garoppolo miss one of those in the NFC Championship game. It might have gone for 6.
Oh.
Can he make that throw where Kittle turns it, or throw to Kittle where instead of an incompletion, they're getting a chunk play? And that's something I'm definitely keeping an eye on. I don't know how much in the preseason, but as the regular season progresses, for sure.
Kyle Madson, 95.7 The Game. Also, Candlestick Chronicles. That's always a tongue twister for me. I don't know why, but
Yeah, the alliterations. It's catchy, but it's definitely tough to say. I always Candlecron. That's what I.
Candlecron.
Yeah.
He's joining us here on D-Lo and KC. Kyle, you mentioned George Kittle, and I just want to know your opinion, or if you know some backstory to it, or got some info. Are they gonna allow him to be a receiver again? Or are they going to keep him back there as an offensive lineman like I feel like they did all of last season? Like, are they going to let him get up the field a little bit now and get back to that pass-catching threat that we know and love?
All right, I have a few things on this. One, how many yards do you think Kittle finished with last year?
650.
James, would you like to venture a guess?
That would have been my guess, exactly 650.
910. He had
What?
71 catches for 910 yards and set a career high with 6 touchdowns.
Yo,
While
that's
playing-
crazy. I would have never thought that.
Wild, dude. Wild. I was writing about it the other day, and I put what I write. I just put like, I don't want to stop what I'm doing to go look up a stat, so I'll just put like X's, or I'll just throw a number in there and then go back and change it. I put 500. I said, like, yeah, it's in that neighborhood. 910 yards. He still almost had 1,000. So I do think, to your point about using him more as a receiver, I think he did spend more time as a blocker last year. It seemed that way, because he was hurt early in the year. There was a play in week 2 against the Eagles where he got a big first down. He kind of ran through somebody and just got up and jogged back to the huddle. Didn't do his normal celebration thing. And it was like, man, and he was kind of limping. and it turns out he was hurt. So I think that was a problem. And I also think Mike McGlinchey going down forced them to go with Kittle as a blocker more often, because he had to compensate for Tom Compton or Colton McKivitz or whoever it was at right tackle. So I do think, to answer your question, I think everybody's receiving numbers might come down a little bit, just because I don't think the passing volume is going to be there as much. I think they're going to be a pretty run heavy team, especially early in the year as Lance is getting his legs. But I think he'll be pretty involved, because there's just things that Lance can do athletically in terms of extending plays and throwing the ball down the field, where Kittle, I think, can really be an asset in a way that he hasn't been the last few years.
900 yards, almost 1,000 yards.
That's crazy.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I would not have. I literally, the number that popped in my head was exactly a 650. Yeah. You talked about they're going to be run heavy in the first part of the season specifically. Where is Trey Sermon fitting into this whole thing? Because it sort of seemed like Elijah Mitchell was electric when he was healthy. They went out and they drafted another running back. They've got Jeff Wilson, but where do you see Trey Sermon fitting in, and can he be impactful, especially in an offense like Shanahan's that requires like 5 different running backs?
Yeah, Trey Sermon's a huge question mark. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing him tonight, because in camp, by all accounts, he looks a lot better, more decisive, more explosive. That's great. Can you do it when people are trying to tackle you? Because in camp, they're not tackling. So I'm fascinated to see that, because I think Elijah Mitchell is still going to be, for the most part, the workhorse back, but he was pretty banged up last year, and I think the Niners want him to be healthy and on the field, because, like you said, he's their best running back. So I think in an ideal world, he's probably looking at between 15 and 20 carries, and then either Tyrion Davis-Price, who they drafted in the 3rd round this year, Sermon, or Wilson are eating the additional, and a little bit of Lance are eating the additional 15 to 20 carries, or however many they want to get to.
And Debo.
Right. Don't want to forget the wide back.
You might throw Ray back there every now and then.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna get creative, I think. And just to that point, so Trey Sermon specifically, I think there's a real chance if he is indeed more decisive, because that was his problem last year. He would go, if you watch him against the Packers, he gets the ball behind the line and then just kind of tries to pick his way forward. And that's not this offense. This offense is the O-line's going to move quick. You got to move quick. There's going to be a hole. You got to hit it. Yeah. So if he can do that, I think there's absolutely touches for him and opportunities for him to be the playmaker they drafted him to be in the 3rd round. On the other hand, if he's not, or if Tyrion Davis-Price is a more effective runner, he's, I think, more elusive in the open field than he looks. He runs through tackles like crazy. It was one of the things he was really good at LSU was a short yardage back. I think he's going to have that role for the 49ers, but I think there's a legitimate chance that Davis-Price is just better than Sermon and winds up shouldering more of that secondary workload.
I like that. So I mentioned I was listening to you and Willard this morning. Once again, great job by Kyle Madson on there. Love hearing what he's got to say. But you mentioned it was almost like a kind of a throwaway line, but you said, I don't have time for that. Well, I want you to elaborate. You got time here, where they were talking about the misnomer, which I agree with both of you guys. They're like, oh, Jimmy Garoppolo is some scrub, and if it wasn't for Kyle Shanahan, he wouldn't have been any good. Like Jimmy's a good quarterback just by himself. But you said something to the effect of what Kyle Shanahan did with Nick Mullins is what makes me feel he'll be just fine. Like Trey Lance will be just fine. Because to some respect, and I'll let you elaborate on it, Nick Mullins is that guy that's like, he's not very good. But Kyle still was able to get him to put up numbers. Just real quick, couple minutes, just talk about what you were thinking there.
I just like the Nick Mullins is the quarterback that people who hate Jimmy Garoppolo think Jimmy Garoppolo is. like he's not good, dude. There's a reason he wasn't on a roster to start last year. He was on the Browns practice squad. There's a reason he's in a battle to be the Raiders' backup quarterback. He's just not that good, man. And Kyle Shanahan got crazy production out of him. And when you look at a player like him, an undrafted player out of Southern Mississippi, shout out to him for carving out an NFL career as an undrafted quarterback and having the second most passing yards ever for a quarterback through their first 16 starts, behind only Patrick Mahomes, which is a bananas stat. But when you take that into account, it's like, man, Shanahan figured it out with this guy.
Yeah.
Shanahan figured it out with this undersized, not quarterback with not a great arm, not super athletic, not mobile, but he figured out what he was good at and he hammered it. And Mullins had some turnover issues, and there were just problems with the offense in general that led to his winning percentage not being as good as it was. Like, he's just not a super talented player, and you're going to run into limitations. But with Lance, who's a number 3 pick and crazy talented in every way you want a quarterback to be talented, it's like, if he can figure it out with Nick Mullins, it may not look the same, right? But he's going to figure it out with Trey Lance, and the ceiling, the floor, I think is automatically higher. Yeah, and that's why, as much as I want to lean pessimistic on, like, man, if he's inaccurate and this and that, like, I think they're going to figure it out.
I agree. Kyle, we always love talking to you, man. Appreciate you coming on here every week. Niners are back. I can't wait for tonight.
So excited.
And then it'll be the second series, and I'll be like, well, don't know this guy, I guess.
If you have questions, let me know, man. I'm happy to chat about them.
We'll do, man. I appreciate you, Kyle. Appreciate you pulling up.
Seeing you, Kyle.
Kyle Madson, 95.7 The Game.